Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Weekly Wellness. I'm your host, Amy Green, and with me today, I'm joined again by the delightful Sherry Keating.
Thank
so,
you.
welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me again.
Yes, and I love the fact that you just keep kind of reinventing yourself. So, I love that. You're our diabetic expert that we turn to when there's anything new on the forefront with diabetes or how we're managing or how we're actually doing with childhood obesity. But now you have another avenue. So we want to give you some time to talk about that new avenue that you're pursuing.
Well, thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity to talk about my newest project. It is actually a teen and tween financial health and nutritional wealth program.
Okay.
And it's for teens and tweens 12 to 19 years old. And I have partnered with a financial coach, and we will be offering this March 3rd and March 10th, and from 9:30 to 12. And she'll be teaching the basics of finance. So she'll be teaching credit versus debit. She'll be teaching Roth IRA. She'll be teaching how to balance a checkbook. The basics that you need to know that we aren't taught in school. And although I heard some schools do teach basics of finance, but a lot of schools don't. I didn't learn that in school, I know that. And then the second half of the day, I will be teaching a part of nutrition. So I'll be teaching healthy eating and label reading and how to tell unit prices and how to compare prices. And so we're offering this, and we're having our first program the beginning of March. And you know, I just really believe that good health, as you know, I feel like good health starts in childhood.
Right.
And if we can give these kids a solid foundation for finance and nutrition, it's awesome.
Well, it's part of the building block of
Absolutely.
our house, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I am a big fan of being able to, you know, have your house in order, so
I love
to speak.
that.
Right. You know what I mean? Because, you know, we're this is just a vessel.
That's right.
You know, and there are times and occasions in life when things happen that are unexpected. And now more than ever, I think you have to at least prepare for that if you don't expect it. Because it can throw people into a whirlwind. And that's health, finances, I mean, death, loss, you know, addition. You know what I mean?
Right.
People's families may grow, or they may, you know, be an older parent that now a child has to come back into their home. So there's lots of things that we can take care of. But I do agree that at least getting children and our young people involved so the language isn't foreign to them puts them in a much better spot.
I totally agree, and I'm one who knows from experience how one call can change your life. And when I was perfectly healthy, taking care of my body, eating right, exercising, and then I got the call that changed my life forever, and that was the call that I had cancer. And so I know exactly what you're talking about. So we need to be prepared for if that call ever comes, and are we in the best shape that we can be in when that call does come. And thankfully, I get to share today that I was just discharged from my oncologist forever.
Wow.
It was
my
amazing.
God. And on Valentine's Day.
And it was actually last week, and it was interesting because I talked to him and I said, so when I first came to you, when I had this cancer, what were my odds of living? And he said, well, 50-50. And he said, and we were worried because of the way the cancer, it was misdiagnosed and it wasn't treated properly because it's rare. And so they were worried small cancer cells had gotten through. So I had to wait 10 years for me to get the final okay from my oncologist saying, you know what? There isn't any signs that the cancer has come back and we can discharge you, because this will be my 10-year anniversary, September 17th.
Wow.
But it was my last visit last week, and he cut the cord, and I was like, really? You don't want to see me anymore? Like, it's like frightening, but so exciting. And there's a lot of emotion because, you know, I had the best team of doctors at Mass General Hospital, and they were like family to me. They just...
Well, in 10 years, that's what happens.
Right, and they didn't just take care of me emotionally, but they took care of me emotionally because I was a mess. And, you know, I'm around today because I did take care of myself prior to that. And I think that's such an important message to get across to people. Did I ever think I was going to get a call that said, Sherry, you have cancer? No, in my wildest dreams, I didn't. And it came, and I had to go through some grueling treatments just like other people that have cancer, and I had to be physically strong, and my body had to be strong in order to endure that. And so this is why it's so important to me to get kids to understand that. Who thinks about it when you're 12 to 19 about what the long-term ramifications of your choices are today? And that's the message we need to talk to kids about, is the choices that you make today are lifelong choices that affect your tomorrow.
Right.
And
right.
so,
and even for myself, during those, I guess, kind of formative years, 12 to 19, you were old enough that, we were, well, what they used to refer to as like latchkey kids. So, my mom worked, and we were home from school before she arrived home. So we ate for snack whatever was in the house.
Right.
And then, going through, so that would be middle school and then high school, same thing. Hey, we had cars. We weren't going home. We were going through drive-throughs, getting fast food. And I think, that set me on a course that made it easier for me to become an obese adult. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
those patterns were in place. They'd been in place
Right.
already for 10 years.
absolutely.
So, and, now as a much older adult, not that I'm maturing, I'm just older, I find the label reading is so important, because just when I think that, I'm doing all the right thing, I'm following a keto diet, I'm high on protein, negated the whole calorie count, and that has slipped me up a little bit, because I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I was consuming that many calories, thinking that I was eating healthier choices.
Right.
So, now it's reined back in, what I mean? Checking the labels, keeping the food diary again,
Yeah.
because that's how I keep myself accountable,
Yeah.
because let's be honest, I'm not accountable to anybody.
Except to yourself.
Right,
I mean,
and
you need to be accountable for yourself.
Right, and there's times that I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get busy.
We all are, though, because life is busy today. But label reading, you're absolutely right. And I am teaching a whole class to these kids on label reading, because that they need to look at the serving size, and they need to look at how many calories per serving, and really look at, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to have them have 2 bowls and pour what they would normally pour in that bowl.
Yep.
And then I'm going to have them pour exactly really what the serving size is supposed to be, and let them see, wow,
Well, let's be
I
honest.
had no idea.
Companies, food distributors and companies have gotten sneaky. Remember when we did not drink soda when we were growing up? That was an absolute, that just didn't happen.
A special occasion sort of thing.
But it was, it was a can of Coke. You know what I mean? There was no such thing as a 2-liter. I remember when they were still glass bottles. I'm really dating myself now.
Oh, no, I remember that too.
And they were not, a
Right,
16-ounce bottle. It was
supersized.
like a 6-ounce
Right.
bottle, and then that increased a little bit to an 8-ounce. Now it's a 10 or 12-ounce. Well, now you
20
can
ounce,
right now
2
you can get whatever
liters.
you want, right? Whatever size you want, and that's sneaky. You know what I mean? Because that's 4 or 5 servings in that one container, and kids are drinking 3 and 4 of those a day.
Well, the sugar in a 20-ounce can of soda is 69 grams. And so,
What does that equal for?
okay, so
like a cup, a third of a cup?
for women, we are supposed to have no more than 24 grams for a day of added sugar, and men are 36. Now there's 69 grams in a 20-ounce Coke. So you're actually eating your calories right there. A lot of people don't think of drinking as a food choice. And a lot of, like, if you go to some of those, I won't name any particular coffee shops, but any coffee shop, and you have one of the fancy drinks,
Right, exactly.
you can have 400 to 500 calories and a ton of fat in those drinks.
And sugar.
And a lot of sugar.
Right.
And so, yes.
And they're $6.
Exactly. They're really hurting your budget as well as your waistline. So when you really think about it, you are getting, if you're a woman, 3 days of sugar in a 20-ounce container of soda.
Right. No, I think those kids need to know that, because I know that we are producing, we are, I don't know, developing obese children.
Oh,
That didn't just happen.
absolutely.
That did not just happen. I mean, that
Yes.
happens because we're not paying attention.
Well, there's a lot. It's not just, well, the food is the major part, but also the fact that kids, they're sedentary today. Think about when you and I were kids. What did? We went,
Oh
we
my
got
God,
home from
outside,
school, we
right.
had a snack, and then we were out for the rest of the day until it was time for dinner.
Right.
And so we were always active. But today, kids are active this way with their phones and
Okay.
computers and things, because we have a lot of electronics now. And the new guidelines say that they need to have no more than 2 hours a day of sedentary time. So screen time less than 2 hours a day for
Wow.
kids. Those are the new guidelines, and an hour of exercise a day for kids.
I don't even know if they still do, well, when we were in school, we called it
PE.
recess, right? Well,
Right.
recess, where we actually ran around the schoolyard and
Right.
played on school equipment. I don't even know if they do that nowadays.
Well, I think some schools still do, but I know when they did budget cuts, that is an area, that they cut. And, like home economics, we used to have home economics.
right,
I don't
yeah.
even know if they even have that anymore either, but that's why this course is going to help.
Where's that
So
course
much.
being taught?
Excuse me, I have a tickle. It's going to be in Acton at the Parents Estate Planning Law Firm in Acton.
Okay.
And so I can give you my email and phone number, and they can sign up with me or the financial coach, who's Laura Fickett, and she owns a Fickett Financial
Okay.
group, and so we're partnering together.
Because I imagine at this point, there would be no reason why, one, you're educating the kids and the young people, but now would be a good time for these kids and or their parents to start thinking about their own IRAs, their own source of a saving, putting money in savings, because things are not getting cheaper.
She actually has her it's Fickett Financial Coaching, and she actually does offer programs for adults, and it's so many weeks, and she actually offers that and teaches people financial planning and coaching. And so she does offer, and then she was seeing children one-on-one. And then we happened to meet in a coffee shop. It's interesting, you never know who's gonna come
Right.
across your path. So I was in between appointments, and I happened to walk into a coffee shop, brought my laptop to do some work, and I saw somebody I knew, and I went over and said hello, and she was meeting with Laura. And she said, Sherry, I have to leave, but I'd love to introduce you to my friend. And so I ended up talking to her. We talked for a couple of hours, and then we decided, we'd have a great partnership.
Right, of
And so
course.
we combined our resources, and we've been working on this, getting this program organized, and now it's taking off.
Oh,
And
that's exciting.
it
It's
is.
good for
and
you guys.
I really
Yes.
feel like this is going to make a big difference in so many kids' lives. And the parents, they can attend in the back of the room so they can hear the information, but it's really all about the kids.
Yeah. Well, I think if you empower kids, empower them with
Absolutely.
information, they will make better choices. They may not be right now, but there's that voice that's always running in our head that says, hey, you know about this. You know that you should be setting at least, a third of your paycheck aside into savings. Even as young people, and young people are having to work now at a much younger age.
Yes.
So, they've got some financial responsibility, even if it's just to themselves. You don't want to work so hard and then have nothing to show for it because
Right.
you've been out buying the $6 coffee drinks, or, you're going through the fast food, which is no bargain.
Right.
We know what dollar meals end up looking like 9 and 10 years. They look just the same, a little
Right.
different, but I mean, that food is not great for us.
Right,
Yeah.
fast food, right. There are some better choices that you can make. I know my kids, I watch them with their kids, and sometimes life is so crazy that you have to do fast food because you're in between all these appointments, but there are some healthier choices.
Right.
You could have something that's baked, not fried, or something that's sauteed, and you could have water or milk, low-fat milk instead of soda. So, you could have a salad versus fries. So
Right.
there are some healthy options. You just need to know and be educated on those.
Right. And again, I don't want people to think, because again, I've looked at some of these, especially the salads that are supposed to be healthier choices. The minute you pour that salad dressing on, that's where it gets you. You know,
It
you might as well
does.
just fix yourself a regular, good, portion-controlled meal because you are eating your calories, your sugar, and your fat in that salad dressing.
Yeah, salad dressings are a really big place where people get a lot of hidden fat. And fat leads to diabetes. So
Okay, wait, fat leads to diabetes.
Yes.
Being fat or
the diabetes, no, consuming saturated and trans fats
Okay, all
leads
right.
to diabetes. And the Diabetes Prevention Program was a study, a randomized trial in 1999, and what that trial showed was that they had over 3,200 people in the study, and they all had pre-diabetes, and they had high-risk ethnic groups included, and they randomized them to 4 different options. One was 4 different groups. One was intensive lifestyle, where they were to lose 7% of their body weight through eating low fat, and they were to exercise 150 minutes a week. All right. Then they had a group who, and they met with the social worker every week, and they learned really behavior modification and how really to exercise and to eat right. And then they had another group that was randomized to metformin, which is a diabetes medication, and they were given some instructions on healthy eating and exercise, but they didn't go through that intensive behavior modification. Then there was a group who was in the placebo group, and then there was another group who was in another diabetic medication, but they stopped that arm of the study after 10 months because there was some complications with that medication.
Okay.
But they actually stopped the study early, 2.8 years, because the overwhelming evidence showed that if you decreased your calories, reduced the fat to less than 25% of your total calories, so you really just ate low fat and no trans fats, you exercised 150 minutes a week and lost 5 to 7% of your body weight, you could reduce your risk of developing type 2 diabetes by 58 to 71%.
Wow.
And also, you lowered your blood pressure, you lowered your cholesterol, and this was for everybody in the study, men, women, all the different ethnic groups. So they actually took that study, and they actually, the CDC actually rolled that out so that it was able to be, instead of individual, because that's not cost effective,
Right.
they rolled it out into a group community settings. And so now they're popping up all over the place, which is awesome because it's an intensive 1-year program, and it really teaches people based on this study how they can reduce the risk of diabetes, because diabetes is preventable by simple lifestyle changes.
Right, and isn't, this may be speculation, but isn't diabetes going to be the dis-ease that costs this country a fortune to treat?
Well, it already does. The last numbers that I'm aware of was in 2012. It was $245 billion. So every $5, 1 out of $5 helps take care of people with diabetes, of our healthcare dollars. So we are talking about, because diabetes is the leading cause of kidney disease, lower limb amputation, eye disease, and it's also connected to heart disease. So you have a 50% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease, heart attacks and strokes if you have diabetes, and prematurely. So every 5 minutes, 2 people die of diabetes-related complications. So we are talking about a disease that affects every part of the body. And so, there's a connection between diabetes and Alzheimer's disease.
Right, yes.
And so we're talking that right now we have over 30 million people that have diabetes, and we have 84 million that have pre-diabetes, and 90% are unaware. So what they're calculating based upon the projections of where we are today, without lifestyle changes, 1 in 3 will have diabetes in their lifetime.
Right, and think about that as financial.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to tax our healthcare
strain.
system.
Right,
Absolutely.
and again, I'm not beating up on people who have diabetes or have been diagnosed with pre-diabetes or anything. My message is we can prevent that.
That's the message.
Right, with just some education, just educating yourself to make better choices.
And simple life, and that's why I started my company, because when I saw this picture of an iceberg, and it had at the time it was 29 million people with diabetes, but then below the iceberg was 86 million people. Now it's 30 million people with diabetes now, and 84 million people with prediabetes. When I saw that, it was like an aha moment for me. And I have been working with diabetics for over 35 years. And for me, we can prevent diabetes with simple lifestyle changes. Why are we not focusing on that?
Right.
And so I decided to start my company, Diabetes Care with a K Consulting. And the reason I did was my sole mission is to help people prevent and manage diabetes. So I want to prevent, increase awareness that prediabetes really is a thing. And I now have a test that you can take on my website. If you go on my website, you can actually go and take the prediabetes risk test. And it's an electronic questionnaire. It's 7 questions, and you can literally find out if you're at risk for prediabetes right from my website now. And if you score 5 or higher, then it's likely that you may have prediabetes now, and you need to go and actually have a blood test to diagnose that, and then start making these simple lifestyle changes to reduce your risk by over half.
Right, because I mean, let's be honest, there's probably, out of our staff here today, everybody here at FATV, there's probably at least 3. You know what I mean? If we all took the test, there would be at least 3 that would test positive or have indicators for prediabetes.
Yeah, so it's being overweight, sedentary, a primary history in your family of diabetes, so that would be mother, father, sister, brother. If you have a history of high blood pressure, even if it's controlled, it's still a risk factor. Elevated cholesterol. If you had gestational diabetes or delivered a baby over 9 pounds, certain ethnic groups. So,
I mean, right there, I've already answered yes to 4, so.
and you get certain points based upon the question. And so, you know what? It really is serious, and people need to understand that it's a real thing and that they can do something today to lower their risk significantly, and it's not a huge change. So like, say you weigh 200 pounds, 14 pounds by lowering your saturated and having no trans fats and exercising 150 minutes a week, and that 150 minutes a week, what the study found was that 10-minute increments. So it's 30 minutes, 5 days a week, but 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and 10 minutes. If you do a moderate, walk even,
right,
you can reduce your risk by over 50%.
Right, because we want the heart to work. The heart is a muscle, and it will get atrophied. It will get small if it's not used. So you've got to fill the lungs with air so that they're working properly and at capacity. But there are times when you've got to, for better overall health, you've got to stress the heart a little bit. You've got to make it work. You've got to make it pump. You've got to feel it.
And that's the thing, it's not like you have to run a marathon. You don't have to buy equipment. I tell my patients, God gave you 2 legs, just get up and use them.
Right.
Get up and use them. So a lot of times if you're short for time but you're watching your favorite show, jog in place.
Right.
Walk around the room and make sure you're getting a moderate pace. So it's not a snail's pace, it's a moderate. So I tell my patients, it's not like driving 10 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour. It's somewhere in the middle, so that you're feeling your breathing increase, but you're not short of breath. You can still talk at the same time, but find fun ways to incorporate it. Have other people, take a walk with you after work.
Right.
Do it on your lunchtime. I used to have a 45-minute lunch break, so I would spend, 20 minutes of it walking or 30 minutes of it walking and then taking 15 minutes to eat, So because I had a busy day and I didn't have time to go after work or before work to get my workout, but I know the importance of it.
Right.
So if you really want to do it, I always tell my patients, make it a priority, and it's a choice. We all have choices in life, and there are consequences to choices. So do the best that you can.
Right.
And if you've never done it before, make sure it's okay with your doctor. You don't have any, risk of starting an exercise program, but you don't have to spend any money.
No, and again, you don't have to spend money to take care of yourself. I mean, we've got the innate ability to know what that is. We just have to implement it.
Right, and that's the key. And, I'm writing a book. It's called The Life-Changing Power of Your Why. And what that means is that when I had cancer, I went into a very deep depression. It was a very difficult time for me because I was very sick, and there were some circumstances in my life that made me become very depressed. And one day I realized that my doctor actually said to me, your attitude is going to kill you before your cancer. Well, at first I was so angry, but then I realized that he gave me a very valuable lesson. And that was that your mind is a very powerful tool.
Yes, it
and
is.
I had to wake up one day and realize, what do I want to live for? Okay. I had a granddaughter who was 1. She became my why, or my reason for getting up every day and doing what I needed to do to take charge of this,
Right.
take control of this. And so she is my why. And now whenever I speak, whether it's a community program, a CEU program, I always end it off with, help your patients determine their why, and then use it to motivate them to make those changes so you can live a longer, healthier, happier life. And I show a picture of my granddaughter and what I've been able to achieve since I kept my why in focus. And I believe it's a very powerful tool.
Of course it is, right.
Absolutely.
And again, it costs nothing to tap into that.
No.
We just have to give ourselves permission to do it.
Right.
You know, I want you to come back so we can talk further about where we are, you know, in the diabetic frontline fight, and then another one on using the defibrillator, the AED.
Yes.
And some hands-only CPR.
I just did that on my show today called
Okay.
Talk Me Healthy, and we actually demonstrated how you can save somebody's life. It's 2 steps. You call 911, get your phone on speaker, and then just push hard and fast in the middle of the chest, and to a rate of 100 to 120. And the song Staying Alive, it's that kind of rhythm.
Okay.
And you just do that until the EMTs take over. You can save somebody's life, because most out-of-hospital deaths occur at home.
Right.
And so my goal for having that show today was to teach people that CPR saves lives, and so can you.
Right, that's awesome. All right. Viewers, as we wrap up, I want you to make sure that you always take care of yourself, but more importantly, take care of others. Until next week, be well.